Hey folks, and welcome to another Sasoi spikeboarding tutorial demonstration. Today we are in New Paltz, New York, right slightly east of the Shawannagunks. And there you just saw a skateboard spike, and with it you can execute this stroke of stand-up spike. Have a peek and make sure you pay attention to the details. So notice the hand position. The hand position on that skateboard spike is with the hands about 7 inches apart. It's not shoulder width length apart. The athlete's not holding that shaft all the way down in the middle. And also notice how the kinetic action is happening only on the front side of the athlete. That's very important to recognize. Also recognize that the shaft of that skateboard spike is traveling to the rear constantly. And of course, on the pavement end of things is a spike tip, as the name implies. Skateboard spike, spike tip. Where does that spike tip come from? That spike tip comes to us from cross-country roller skiing. Olympic athletes, World Cup athletes, heck, even New Paltz high school athletes use that same carbide spike tip on their roller ski poles when they practice 50, 60, 70% at times of the year to cross-country ski. So this stroke here is called stand-up spike, and it is a slight modification of the double poling stroke. Notice how the corners of the elbows are square. It's 90 degrees. So you're trying to make a square engagement, and you're trying to engage the core and the lats. This is not an arm-driven sport. It's actually a core-driven sport and a lat-driven sport. So that's how we started, and here very soon we're going to begin to engage the Cubi-X-Cross stroke, and that's going to be a one-armed stroking with a simultaneous leg kick. So that's a technique that's very similar to cross-country skiing. When you begin to diagonal stride in classic ski and you begin to skate ski, you're engaging the legs, there you go, and the upper body simultaneously. So that Cubi-X-Cross stroke is a blended marriage of cross-country ski from the waist up, connected to the scooter kick and the skateboard kick and the waist down. And it is bilateral, folks. So we are in New Paltz today, and we're doing a New Paltz triangle loop. It's about, probably about 6 miles or so. And you might say, how was this footage made? Well, this footage was made right behind a bicycle. So we're occupying the same amount of space that a bicycle does, one shoulder width distance on the side of the road. So wherever bicycles go, spikeboarding can follow right behind it, occupying the same amount of space with a slightly lower average speed. So elite cyclists will travel 18, 19, 20 miles an hour, and spikeboarding goes down to about 13 to 17. And this loop, folks, we're on Butterville Road right now. We're going to take a right at Mountain Rest Road with another right at Springtown Road, and then come back across New Paltz Minnewaska Road to make the triangle complete. And these kinds of terrain, up and down, high side, low side, is what cross-country skiers would do. We're not going to go barreling down hills at 50, 60 miles an hour. That is the world of longboarding. So if you tuned into this imagining that this was longboarding, it's not. Spikeboarding is a board on wheels, very similar to roller skis, which are boards on wheels. And in effect, sure, certainly, there's a little bit of skateboard involved, longboard kicking involved, but the sport of spikeboarding is simplified cross-country roller skiing. As you can see, there's no boots and there's no bindings. And what's important to understand about sports is the way that they move, and actually the meditative state of the athlete. So you're either in an endurance meditative state, whereby you're trying to extract power and energy for forward propulsion. That would be an endurance theater. So marathon running, bicycle racing, cross-country skiing, those are all endurance theaters. And then of course you have radical and acrobat. Radical acrobat would be downhill skiing, half pipe skateboarding, street skateboarding, figure skating, radical aggressive BMX riding, aggressive inline skating. Those are all wonderful forms of acrobat. So just because we're on a skateboard does not mean we're behaving like skateboarders in any way, shape, or form. So spikeboarding, the essence is endurance, and it's all about taking the board up hills. So here we go, taking our right onto Mountain Rest Road. And there's going to be a little bit of a downhill here, not too much of a pitch. And folks, you're seeing elite expert spikeboarding the same as you would road riding. You want to watch your backside and just put our arms out there to catch a little wind and taper and govern off a little bit of the speed. So we've got a bicycle in front of us, and they're actually drafting, giving a little bit of draft, so the board accelerates a little bit faster than it normally would. There's a tiny little tuck to show you what that might look like. Folks, we're working on a fully operational disc brake for these boards, and we'll be working with 2 universities in the coming months to begin to prototype and bring that to market, so that you will really be able to begin to behave exactly like a road cyclist. Stay to the side of the road and go up, go down, put in your load, and that is a sport that will last quite a long time. If you can radical quite a long time, hey, that's wonderful. We didn't come here to change skateboarding or change longboarding or change anybody's life whatsoever. We came here to innovate the sport of spikeboarding, which is a simplified form of Nordic roller skiing. So you can see a little bit of crocodile pavement there, and we managed right over it, but an athlete that's been doing this for 3+ years can certainly handle this. This athlete has been spikeboarding for 8 years. He's been roller skiing for about 2 years. How beautiful are those Shawangunks right behind this athlete? What an amazing place to road ride, inline skate, rather, Nordic roller ski, the outdoors. The outdoor sector is alive and vibrant here in the Ulster County in the Lower Hudson Valley. We see a lot of bicycles out, and we get a tremendous amount of respect from the riders, from the drivers as well. This was a Sunday afternoon, and again, folks, open road situations are not for beginners nor even intermediate. You want to be fairly expert in traffic and in handling yourself in any transport sport that you're going to practice when you get out into situations like this, when you need to stay close to the side of the road. So have respect for others around you, and certainly never go out spikeboarding if you are a threat to anybody else at all. You want to learn the sport very well before you begin to engage near anybody whatsoever. So keep that in mind, and make sure you watch our tutorials on this channel, and you'll also see a video that is more of a full comprehensive look at this area, and the people who know these roads will recognize a lot of the beginner areas where there's absolutely very low traffic, and of course we're also going to begin to make some videos on bike paths that I believe have been newly paved in the area, and those will be really good places to begin learning the sport. And of course, the sport begins without a board, so make sure that you watch our videos and completely understand that if you cannot do the upper body actions on dry land slowly, with no wheels underneath you, then you're more than likely not going to be able to do it on a board. So how slow can you go drills are very, very, very important, and make sure you take a peek at them on our channel so that you understand this. And of course, always keep your speed in check. This isn't a radical sport, and here we are just taking a little bit of air so that the draft off the bicycle isn't making us accelerate past the camera. And of course, always have eyes on the back of your head. Keep your ears open for traffic, and on open, quiet country roads, you can hear cars coming from way back. Just turn your head sideways, and the wind will stop, and you'll be able to hear what's back there. But be respectful of the road, and when you have a shoulder, take the shoulder. And here we are on Springtown Road, which is a beautiful glassy surface right now at the moment, and you can really see how the Cubi-X-Cross stroke and the stand-up spike stroke combine and connect intermittently, depending on the terrain and depending what is in front of you. So if you've got a little bit of gravel, then you need to get into stand-up spike. You need to put your weight on the back of the board and float those front wheels over gravel. So a little bit of gravel is not going to be a big problem on boards. You've got very wide wheels, and you don't have any tips to cross. So unlike roller skiing, when you hit gravel, things can get a little tenuous. And it's not to compare an apple to an apple, because they're not. When it comes to the wheels, roller skis are a little more delicate with the terrain they can go over. But as you can see, a board, a little wider wheels, no tips to cross, can really manage quite safely over most all the terrain that you're going to come across. But of course, you still need to be reading the terrain perpetually. Always be reading terrain. You can't look away. You have to always read terrain before you look away. So don't look away. Don't look the left or right. You got to read the next 20 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet in front of you. Here we're coming up to a light here. Just scrubbing off a little speed there before you look away from pavement. So unlike road cycling, where you can let your navigational skills dwindle a little more, roller skiing and of course spikeboarding as well, you can't let your navigational skills down. You have to really monitor the pavement that's in front of you constantly. So here we've taken a little right-hand turn onto New Paltz, Minnewaska, and our terrain is going to change a little bit here, and we're going to have a go at the shoulder, and then we're going to have a little bit of a go when we know no one's behind us on that left side of that white line, and then we're going to pop back onto the shoulder. So it's a little pebbly around this area, and again folks, this is open road spikeboarding, and you need to be in complete control of your board and complete control of your stroke, and know what the heck you're doing out here when you're practicing the sport. Same as you would come out here on a road cycle. These roads are for well-experienced people, so we just want to make these videos so that you understand the culmination of what the sport looks like once the practitioners know how to practice it. But if you enjoy full body workouts, if you are a rock climber, if you are a swimmer, swimming for the high school or the university, stand-up spike and spikeboarding are going to serve you very, very well. And folks, if you want to participate in the sport of stand-up spike all by itself, and you do not want to chew off learning to switch kick and dialing in your Cubi-X-Cross, well then that's perfectly fine as well. Or you're a cyclist and you want to do just every other day stand-up spike, and then every other day cycle. That's a really delicious workout as well. But please don't anybody imagine that this athlete is paddling in any way, shape, or form. Folks, we do paddle, and if you paddle, then you'll know exactly why this isn't, because you cannot paddle with one arm, and you cannot paddle without a forward catch. So forward catch is what makes paddling. You need to take a 12-inch blade, you need to cast it forward, bury it into water, and then you are paddling. Also, your arms would be shoulder width apart holding your paddle. And as you can see, There's a tremendous amount of one-armed action going on here. Also, the vector line is constantly going to the rear, exactly like a cross-country skier and exactly like anybody who is roller skiing. But this is a wonderful little loop here. It's the kind of loop that we would probably do about 4 times, 4 or 5 times for a workout. Probably take us about 2 hours to do it. This was about a 20-minute loop or so. Look at the time code, something along those lines. So about a 5-minute loop. And of course, the most beginner road on this loop was the Butterville Road, and it's super well paved as well. So actually, if you took Butterville just back and forth, that's requires a little less technique and skill set, and it's a little less populated, and the driving speeds are a little bit lower. But these kinds of loops that you can find in other places, from here all the way up to Lake Placid and all over Orange County, Ulster County, Dutchess County. No one says you've got to do big busy roads like this, but as you can see, they can easily be managed once you are reaching the complete totality and control of spikeboarding, and they're very nice. So you could do this on roller skis. You'd probably want to do it in Classic, because Classic allows you to stay shoulder width apart, and skate ski technique sort of takes up a little more space because you're skating and you're going left and you're going right, and you're kind of taking up a 2 shoulder width occupancy on a road. And certainly a lot of these roads up here are great for roller skiing. You just need to be wise about which ones you choose, be respectful for neighbors and fellow taxpayers using the road. Keep your ears open and allow safe passage when you know somebody wants to get by. So for the most part, everybody is pretty darn peaceful along the East Coast, because they're used to cycles being all over the place, and you get the occasional angry sort that doesn't realize that slowing down maybe 5, 6, 7, 10 miles an hour is going to barely reduce their commute time. So obviously, for those of you who are watching who are car drivers, realize that average speeds are tremendously difficult to maintain in traffic. So if you're not driving longer than 5 hours, the reduction of 5-6 miles per hour is ridiculously small. People who are speeding like crazy out on the freeway for 45 minutes, you're only arriving minutes earlier, maybe just fractionally. You have to drive hundreds and hundreds of miles, 10, 20, 30 miles an hour faster than you normally would to make any good effect. So eventually, even out on suburban country roads, you're going to come to a light and you're going to be at 0. So as soon as you start factoring 0 into your average speed, everything is kind of lost. So if you're stopping at lights anywhere within a 5-10 mile distance, you're going to be coming to a complete and total stop. So worrying about whether or not you have to slow down 5 or 6 miles an hour for somebody outside the road who's recreating or commuting oughtn't to be the highest point of concern for you. So sometimes perceiving these things is tough for people, but like I said, it's very rare, and most people on the East Coast share roads, and more it's happening all the time. So folks, we're making our way down the New Paltz Minnewaska Road, which also has a little bit more technical requirements. As you can see, the roads are have a little more crocodile, a little more broken up. I wish they could all be like Springtown Road, but that's just not the way that winter hands us our destiny. So the winter comes, and that's what eats up asphalt, is expansion and contraction on winter with winter summer roads. Thankfully, asphalt is forgiving, self-healing, and also repaved every 10, 12 years, or sometimes even sooner. We do a lot of spikeboarding down near New York City, and they repave that entire city every single year, which is amazing. But they get so much tonnage on those streets that you could have perfect pavement, and then within 9 months it's all totally blown out. So folks, make sure you tune into the rest of our videos. We have a lot of tutorial videos. If you've enjoyed watching spikeboarding. Spikeboarding is tremendous amounts of fun. It's constant core engagement, and it gets you into an endurance meditative state that is very pleasing and delightful, very similar to cycling, and of course just like cross-country skiing. So if you go out for a ride, if you guys enjoy that kind of thing, we've cycled quite a few many years, and we really regret not having gotten into cross-country skiing sooner. And of course, spikeboarding is a simplified form of cross-country skiing, and it will develop you and rip you for all field sport athletics, but also it will prepare you for cross-country skiing. So this particular athlete's really aiming for ski mountaineering, and of course nothing replaces cross-country skiing on snow. Absolutely nothing. The quiet of winter and the quiet of the woods, to be skiing, it just can't be beat. So folks, this sport is very handy to know, and it is a lifelong sport, and it begins at age 2 and 3 on a scooter. So that switch kicking dynamic from the belt, waist down, that happens on a scooter. That is how you learn to switch kick. Once you learn to switch kick, that is the most challenging part of a Cubi-Cross. So then you just need to add the upper body, and off you go. And of course, the upper body is just a question of development, and muscular adaptation to human propulsion on land using the upper body, which we're not that accustomed to in these United States. We're really accustomed to human propulsion with upper body only for water. So canoeing and swimming, we really understand that, but not so many people understand cross-country skiing. Cross-country skiing is the sport of gods, folks. It is amazing. It's strength, endurance, and balance. And all spikeboarding has done is adopt everything that cross-country skiing's ever been and bringing it to the most American device there is, and just simplifying it and really taking 2 strokes, a Cubi-Cross and a stand-up spike, which are known as CXC and SUS. So the SUS and the CXC strokes connect seamlessly as you're watching there, and it's really nice to begin to know them and understand when you execute one or the other. Folks, thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next one. Spike hard, spike often, spikeboarding.